Creatine is one of the most powerful supplements in the world. Over 1,000 studies showing benefits in terms of muscle recovery, muscle strength, maximum torque generation, muscle size. At higher doses, like I've done in a previous video, which I'll put a link to, it probably gets into the brain and may help with sleep deprivation, has benefits in terms of bone density, all kinds of benefits to creatine. But in this video, I'm gonna show you a way that you may be taking your creatine wrong. So let's get into it. Caffeine, like coffee or energy drinks, is also another widely used ergogenic substance. And there's some compelling data to suggest that if you combine your caffeine and your creatine, you might just be neutralizing all those good effects of your creatine. And I know you guys might not be putting creatine in your coffee. That sounds kind of gross, but are you drinking coffee in the morning and also taking your creatine in the morning? Or are you drinking energy drinks in the morning? Or are you drinking energy drinks near your creatine before you go to the gym to get your workout? All those situations will combine creatine and caffeine. And there are a couple of interesting studies I want to tell you about in this video that suggest that's a very bad idea. The first study is from 1996, and I know what you guys are gonna say, oh, it's so old. Yeah, but the next study I'm gonna tell you about is from 2022. So first study, 1996, it looked at 9 people, which might not sound like a lot of participants, but the results were striking and statistically significant. They looked at knee extension torque, and they found that when they gave people creatine, lo and behold, knee extension torque increased. The people got stronger. They were able to generate more torque at their knee when they extended at the knee joint. That's cool, but when they gave them the creatine plus the caffeine, something surprising happened. I think these researchers hypothesized caffeine makes you feel more energetic, and creatine, we know, helps with muscle creatine stores. It decreases muscle relaxation time, so you can generate force again more quickly. So it's good for sprinting and explosive movements. Maybe the combination of these two will be great, except the opposite was true. When they combined the creatine with the caffeine, knee extension torque was essentially not improved. It was the same as it was on a placebo. So all the benefits of the creatine for knee extension torque were completely erased when they gave people caffeine with the creatine. The mechanism here is confusing. We don't fully understand it, but it might have to do with muscle relaxation time. Creatine increases phosphocreatine in the muscles, which is a phosphate donor, it's ATP. It decreases muscle relaxation time so you can generate force again more quickly. Caffeine kind of does the opposite. Caffeine increases calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum in your muscles. It actually slows the amount of time that it takes for you to generate another maximal contraction or muscle contraction at the same amount of power. So those two mechanisms are kind of opposed, and it might be part of the reason that these two things might contradict each other. So what about this 2022 study? This 2022 study was a little bigger. It had 26 participants, and they had a placebo group, a creatine group, and a creatine plus caffeine group. They looked at knee extension, but they looked at muscle size, so muscle thickness. And what they found was when they gave people creatine, there was a statistically significant increase in muscle size of the knee extensors, the muscles you use to extend your knee. But in the creatine plus caffeine group, there was no change. So again, this is a second study to suggest that combining creatine with caffeine might actually neutralize, erase, abolish the benefits of creatine. So that's not good. Did you guys know that every week I do a free newsletter? Last week I talked about Serena Williams and GLP-1s, maybe not the best thing. In the past, I talked about things like benefits of creatine at high doses, 20 plus grams a day. And recently I also talked about Botox and whether it affects orgasms in women or emotional connection between humans. But every week I put out a newsletter on Sundays. I'm gonna put a link here in the description for my free newsletter. Check it out. Back to creatine and caffeine storage. The solution here is pretty simple. If you space these two out 4 to 6 hours, you don't see a problem. If you must drink coffee in the morning, and by the way, Lineage makes an organic, pesticide-free, shade-grown, fair trade coffee that's amazing. I don't drink coffee, but I know all of you guys drink coffee, so I wanted to make the best coffee that I could, mold-free, glyphosate-free, etc. You get the idea, it's good stuff. If you must drink coffee in the morning, then just take your creatine later in the day, right before you work out. When you take creatine, levels in your blood and in your body are elevated for the next 2 to 3 hours. So it's totally fine to take creatine right before your workout. In fact, there have been many studies on this topic of when creatine timing is optimal, and it doesn't seem like it really matters. You can load it. If you don't drink caffeine at all, you can load it over the course of weeks and take creatine every day, and you'll still get benefits. You can take it right before your workout, and you will still get benefits. It doesn't really matter when you take the creatine. What matters is that you don't take the creatine and the caffeine together. It's a big thing not to ignore. So you want to drink coffee in the morning? Drink your Lineage, a mold-free coffee in the morning, and then take your creatine before your workout. You want to use energy drink before you work out? Okay, questionable choice. I'm not a fan of what's in these things, but you do you. Don't do your creatine right before your workout. Do your creatine in the morning, and then take your energy drink before you work out. You get the idea. Just space these two things out. Another word about creatine real quickly. There's pretty darn good evidence that creatine gets into your body more easily when you have an insulin spike with the creatine, which means that you want to do carbohydrates or protein or the two of them together with your creatine to improve creatine uptake. This is probably most important during the loading phase when you're actually trying to really fill your muscles with creatine stores. But if you really want to optimize the amount of creatine getting into your muscles, take some honey, bananas, some other carbohydrates, some squash, and some protein. Put it in your shake, put it in your protein shake, whatever you want to do. Take your creatine with carbohydrates and protein. So maybe you make a shake in the morning. I do a smoothie in the morning before I surf, and I'll put my creatine in there. And I'll do raw milk and honey and some Oregons and stuff. And I'll put it in the smoothie, and that's getting me protein from the milk, carbohydrates from the honey, and the creatine is going in there. So however you can, when you take your creatine, think about doing creatine with carbohydrates and protein together and space it out from the caffeine. The research suggests that's probably the way to do it. So do not make this mistake with your creatine. I think creatine is valuable for humans. I think this is yet another argument that humans should be eating meat, because where does creatine naturally occur? It occurs in meat. But most of us don't eat a kilogram of meat per day, which is probably the optimal amount of creatine that we need to be getting to fully top up all of our stores. So if you don't eat a kilogram of meat per day, supplementing with creatine is not a bad idea. Just don't do it with your coffee. And if you're drinking coffee, make sure that you don't have a coffee with mold or pesticides. We've got that solved for you guys already. So hopefully this is helpful, guys. Check out the newsletter, and we'll see you in the next video.